into dairy a little bit more in depth because I've mentioned it a couple times, and I really didn't have time in previous videos to really explain all the perils of dairy. So we are the only species to drink milk from another species, which is actually meant to fatten up a baby. So, for instance, cow milk is meant to fatten a 65-pound calf to a 700-pound fully grown cow. So that's not really how nature intended for us to live and thrive. So I'm going to go through a little bit about what happens to the cow and how the milk comes from the cow to the table, so to speak. So the cows are forcibly impregnated with a sperm gun on a rape rack. And I swear to God, these are actual terms. I am not making that up. I used to work at UPS. I saw the sperm being delivered to the farms, which was quite a sight. So that's what actually happens. They are more or less raped, which is a strong term, but they are forcibly impregnated. So then you wait the 9 months for the cow to give birth to the calf. They take the baby calf away within 3 hours of being born because they don't want the mother and baby to form an attachment, because then they become aggressive, or the mother cow becomes aggressive. And they will take the baby to keep it for veal or raise it as another milking cow or a bull to go to slaughter. And this is where the Buddhists believe that when you eat a cow or you drink the milk, that you're ingesting the pain and the suffering and the emotional loss that this cow feels from having the baby ripped away from her. The calves are then fed a milk replacement, which is odd because the milk that they should be getting is being sold to humans. So the cows from the infancy are not brought up to be healthy as it is, because they're fed basically imitation milk. Then they confine the mother to a stall and hook her up to an automatic milking machine, and that's where she will stay basically for the rest of her life. They keep her pregnant, they keep her lactating. Her lifespan ends up being only 4 to 5 years because she's not getting exercise, she's not getting sunlight. She's constantly pregnant, which is not natural for any animal to be, versus 20 years if she was able to graze and grow naturally and maybe have one baby a year, if that. Many cows are given RBGH. This was kind of controversial a few years ago. It's engineered bovine growth hormone, and a lot of people caught a lot of people's attention. They said, well, we're not buying milk with that in it. So a lot of farmers took that out, or claimed that they took that out. I'm not sure. I can't say for sure if they actually do or don't put it in there. But it's something to think about that, who knows. And then the constant milk production that these cows are under causes an udder infection called mastitis, which is actually the inflammation of the mammary gland. The cow's body then releases pus to try and heal the infection, which goes into the milk, because if you can tell me a way that you can take the pus out the milk, I'm the first one to want to see it. That doesn't work because she's constantly in milk production, so the pus that her body's releasing isn't helping the infection, so then the farmer has to treat her with antibiotics, which again are going into the milk. So you got RBGH, possibly, antibiotics, pus, fun times, hormones, so that's kind of how, cow goes from cow to milk and what they endure as far as that. So that's the animal cruelty side of why I don't drink milk or any dairy products. The health side is it's very acid producing, causes inflammation. The inflammation, and then you have your body, it will accumulate mucus, and then that will allow infections to come in. When I drank milk, I swear I used to get a cold. Anybody cough on me, I would get a head cold. I wouldn't get anything severe like the flu, because my diet was pretty healthy otherwise, but I would get, I'd always have this chunk of phlegm in the morning. It was gross. I was eating a lot of Greek yogurt and ice cream, but when I got off of it and got off of that mucus and the dairy, and it just disgusts me talking about it, I probably lost 3 to 4 pounds of water weight, and like puffiness that was, you know, the dairy, the inflammation will hold water, will make you feel puffy and, you know, kind of gross. The casein, which is the milk protein, is extremely inflammatory, and now they are finding it's extremely carcinogenic, which, you know, people who are getting cancer and they can't explain why can usually trace it back to diet somewhere. So like I said with the RBGH, because the cows are constantly pregnant, the pregnancy hormones, the estrogen levels, all of that are all in the milk as well. So, you know, these hormones, antibiotics, pus, mucus, it's all in there. It's just like a big soup of, they call it bovine slime. You know, some vegans call it bovine slime, which, you know, is a nice little image in your head. But this is, you know, it leads to acne. It leads to respiratory infections. Like I said, with the, you'll get any cold that comes along. Anybody sneezes on you, you got something. It also leads to premature puberty in both boys and girls, where, you know, they're developing breasts at such an early age, 9, 10 years old, going through their period at 9, 10 years old, these girls. So that's something to think about, because there's kids are usually brought up on a pretty heavy dairy diet, drinking milk, eating cheese, because everybody has been told that it's healthy. But they're finding that it's not, you know, because they have all these hormones, and that's really throwing off their natural hormone human balance. So another thing that the mucus does is actually lines your colon. So your colon is like a big kind of puffy tube, and it kind of has like ridges. The mucus will actually sit in there and start to constrict your colon and your intestines, kind of the way cholesterol will constrict your arteries. So the passageway for solid waste to get out, it actually narrows, and that's when you have constipation and other, you know, over time, if it gets so severe, you're going to have harder things like, you know, colonitis and irritable bowel syndrome that will help lead to some of those things, you know, like I talked about in the leaky gut videos. So what are some alternatives that you can have instead of dairy? Almond milk, cashew milk, rice milk, coconut milk. I've tried all of these. I prefer the cashew milk the best, but I think they all taste great. As I never was a milk drinker, I didn't like the taste, so this to me wasn't a hard switch. So when I tell people I don't drink milk or take dairy, they're like, well, where do you get your calcium? Aren't you afraid of osteoporosis? No, I'm not, because plant calcium is actually more absorbable by your body, because it has the companion nutrients that calcium from animal milk will not have. So like the magnesium, the phosphorus, the sodium, all these things that are found in plants that help your body absorb the calcium and absorb all the other vitamins that it needs. Everything works together. And then dogs are barking again. Never a dull moment. Some of the examples where I'm talking about the plant calcium: leafy greens, spinach, arugula, broccoli, collard greens, all those kind of leafy greens, but also like figs. I eat figs like they're going out of style. They have iron, calcium. They're like a super little nugget of deliciousness. Oranges, nuts, seeds, pretty much all nuts and seeds have some level of calcium in them. To compare, you have 100 calories of milk, which is about 2/3 of a cup if you're doing whole milk, has 245 milligrams of calcium. 100 calories of spinach, which is a full pound, which is a lot to eat in a day, even for me, but I do juice, and that's not all I eat. You know, I'm getting figs and oranges, all kinds of different things. That has 450 milligrams of calcium, so it's almost double what a equal calorie amount of cow milk has. So you don't need dairy products to get your calcium. You can get them through plants. Because if you're not absorbing the calcium, doesn't matter how much you get. You can get thousands of milligrams, but if it's coming from cow's milk and you're not absorbing it, it will lead to osteoporosis, because the animal calcium will actually leach from your bones because it's not getting the companion nutrients. Dairy is a big business. Always follow the money. You know, we've been taught that milk does the body good, and as little kids we're taught to drink our milk and eat cheese and all this and we'll be big and strong, but there's always ulterior motives. I have found that plants work better for me. I just wanted to bring this information to you so you can make a decision. If worse comes to worse, try it a week or two off of all dairy and see how you do. I did pretty good off of dairy, and I stayed off of it. I can tell the difference. I don't have broken bones. I don't have calcium issues. So I just wanted to give this information to you so you can make a decision and try it out for yourself and see how it goes. And I will see you next time.